Hey there, this is Dr. Evan Osar with the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. Welcome to this edition of Integrative Movement Insider. And today is part one of a week-long series on the shoulder and rotator cuff, especially for those of you that work with the older active population like we do here in our clinic. And if you've been following us for any length of time, you know that we create and develop and share resources for you, the fitness professional, the health and fitness professional that works with the active population. Especially those clients that have posture issues, movement issues, chronic tightness and or discomfort, joint replacements. So that way you have real world strategies, the same strategies we use with our own clients here in our clinic, Chicago Integrative Movement Specialists. And today we're going to share part one of this series, and this is really looking at the assessments and the process that you take your clients through. Assessment being the first part of the process. So first, when you're working with the active aging population, and this essentially relates to any population, but especially the active aging population, it's imperative that you understand functional anatomy, so you understand what muscles and joints do, so that's also the biomechanics, and also the motor control, how the nervous system organizes the musculofascial system to create optimal alignment, breathing, and control. In other words, motor control of the shoulder complex. Because as we look at our clients that have chronic rotator cuff issues, whether it be impingement or tears, labral tears, as well as impingement syndromes, especially when they reach overhead to grab something in their cabinet or reach behind them in their car or to get dressed, we have to understand what causes impingement type syndrome. So therefore you need to know functional anatomy, biomechanics, and motor control. So simply, if you think about the shoulder complex, the goal is to put the shoulder in the best position for loading, for movement and for loading. And that's in this position here, which is slight upward rotation and posterior tilt. Now it's also imperative the shoulder is also reliant on what happens to the thoraco-pelvic cylinder, or the thorax related to the pelvis, as well as the head and neck. Many of our older clients, so you have to do this postural assessment as well, they're not in anterior pelvic tilt, they're not in hyperextension necessarily, they're actually in a position where they've collapsed their rib cage behind their pelvis, so they have an increased thoracic kyphosis, they have a forward head, and then they bring their head into excessive suboccipital or extension at their occiput C1 articulation, and that's why their head, so they can keep their eyes level to the horizon. That's why their head is so far positioned forward. Now, most of our strategies, our industry strategies to address the forward shoulder is just to have our clients do simple retractions. But as I shared with you last week in last week's Facebook Live post, so they're on our website, iihfe.com, and we also have them on our YouTube channel, Fitness Education Seminars, so you can check those out as well. We discuss how many of our clients have limited overhead range of motion. So that's protraction of the scapula. It's upward rotation and posterior tilt, but it's also abduction of the scapula around the rib cage. Many of our older clients do not have poor ability to retract their scapula. If you teach them how to scapular retract and then you teach them how to do that a few times, they know and understand how to do that. It's the protraction or the overhead motion that they really struggle with. So your next assessment after posture is to look first at their thoraco-pelvic cylinder, next to look at their range of motion. So you just have your client simply just reach overhead. Can they get full range of motion? They should have, somewhere around 150 to 180 degrees of shoulder flexion. You can see I don't have that. If I had to go completely vertical, I would have to hyperextend through my thoracolumbar junction to make that happen because of limited shoulder range of motion. So you look at posture, you look at overhead flexion. You can also have them do retraction. As you can see, I have no trouble retracting. I have a forward shoulder, but no trouble retracting. And that's because when your clients have limited overhead flexion or forward motion of their shoulders, they will start to over protract their scapula to make that happen. And then they go to rehab, or they come to us as health and fitness professionals and we say, hey, just retract your shoulders. And then they can't reach out front, so then they have to protract their shoulders to get their arms out in front. And then we tell them to retract their shoulders, and then they can't get their arms out, so they have these dinosaur type arms, and then they have to over protract to get their shoulders forward. So most of our clients, and Nicoya's laughing at me right now, so most of our clients, they actually have limited ability to get the shoulders in the right position. So again, look at posture, look at range of motion, both overhead flexion as well as their ability to retract, because then that will dictate what you do with your corrective exercises. So tomorrow I'll be back with part 2 of the series, where I take you through the most effective exercises to address range of motion issues, because you have to release some specific structures, and it's actually not out here in the chest that you need to release for a lot of your clients. It's actually more underneath your shoulders. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. So you do your assessments, because your assessments help you determine your client's non-optimal and inefficient posture and movement habits. Your corrective exercises, which we'll share tomorrow, will help you create more optimal and efficient posture and movement habits. And that's the importance of your process and not your exercises. Because if I just give you exercises, all you have are exercises. You don't know why you're doing them. You're just assuming that you know what you're doing with the exercises. And most of the time, they will not work the way you want them to. But when I teach you a process, then you can plug this process into everything that you're already doing with success and help more of your individuals, your older clients that have shoulder, neck, and upper back issues. So tomorrow, I'll be back with part 2 of the Integrative Movement System process for addressing rotator cuff, impingement, and labral problems of the shoulder. Make it a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And if you have any questions, just post them below this video or above this video, depending on where you're watching it, and let me know. And I'll address those videos later in this series later this week. Make it a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.